Hello class, today we're taking a look at our equivalent fractions and decimals practice. First skill that we reviewed in the unit was from elementary school, which was just simplifying fractions or writing them in lowest or reduced form. And to do that, all we need to do is divide a fraction top and bottom by everything until they can't be divided anymore. So for example, with question A, we've got 12 over 28. I know that both of those are even, so I could divide both of them by 2. That'll give me 6 over 14. And both of those are still even, so I want to further simplify, and that'll give me 3 over 7. And since 3 and 7 cannot both divide by the same number anymore, that is our simplest form. In a similar way, I know that both of these end in 5, so they can both divide by 5. 25 divided by 5 is 5, and 45 divided by 5 is 9. 5 and 9 are not able to divide by the same number anymore, so that is our simplest form. Both 70 and 2 are even numbers, so they both divide by 2. 2 divided by 2 is 1, and 70 divided by 2 is 35. And 1 can't divide by anything but itself, so that's our simplest form. And then with something like 205 over 455, we need to just simplify as much as we can. So they do both end in 5. I'll start by dividing by 5. 5 goes into 20 4 times, and then 5 goes into 5 1 time. On the bottom, 5 goes into 45 9 times, and 5 goes into 5 1 time. 41 I happen to know is a prime number, and therefore does not divide by anything else. If you didn't know that 41 was a prime number, you'd try dividing it by 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, using your divisibility rules. It doesn't divide by any of those, and so we can be pretty confident that there are no further simplifications possible. Taking a look at question 2, we want to convert these decimals to fractions. If we're starting with decimals, we either want to use our terminating rule for terminating decimals or our repeating rule for repeating decimals. Our terminating rule says that if our decimal ends, there's no dot, 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 there's no repeating bar, there's nothing like that. We want to look at the place value of our last digit. So the 5 in this case is in the hundredths place. And that tells us the bottom of our fraction. So since it's in the hundredths place, we know the bottom of the fraction is 100. And our digits of the top, or the digits of the decimal, are the top. So 0.45, the digits of that are 45. Now, like always, anytime we write a fraction, we want to simplify. So I know 45 and 100 both are able to divide by 5. That'll give me 9 out of 20 in simplest form for that fraction. Likewise, in question B, there's no repeating bar, so I know this is a terminating decimal. The rightmost digit is in the tenths place, so we're going to have a 10 on the bottom of the fraction, and digit 2 on top from the 2 in the decimal. And as usual, we'll simplify, so both of these are even numbers. They both divide by 2 to give us 1 over 5. That's actually one of our memorized fractions. In question C, you could cross off the 0. We, of course, don't need trailing zeros. If you didn't cross off the 0, you'd look at that 0 and you say, well, that's in the hundredths place. And so we'll have 100 on the bottom. And our digits 50 from the top. We can simplify that by dividing top and bottom by 10. They both end in a 0, so that'll give us 5 out of 10. And we can further simplify that by dividing by 5 to give us 1/2. Of course, 1/2 being 0.5 is one of our memorized fractions. In the case of question D, this is our first one with a repeating bar. A bar over our numbers means that these digits repeat. When we have a repeating decimal, it's the amount of digits that tells us the amount of 9s on the bottom. So there's 3 digits, the 7, the 1, and the 2, that are repeating. And so that tells us that we have 3 9s on the bottom of our fraction. So we're going to have 7, 1, 2 as our digits, and 3 9s, 999 on the bottom. If we just look quickly at these, 999 is pretty much only going to divide by 3 and 9. Might also divide, no, it doesn't divide by 6 as well. And so if we look at our 712, 7 plus 1 plus 2 is 10. That doesn't divide by 3 or by 9. That's going to be our simplest form. Taking a look at E, we're back to our terminating decimal rule. So our 4 is in the thousandths place. So we'll start by writing our 1000 on the bottom of our fraction. Then our digits 34 on top. 34 and 1,000 are both even numbers, so they both divide by 2, and that'll give us 17 out of 500. 0.008 also has a digit in the thousandths place, and so this will start out with 1,000 on the bottom, and our digit 8 on top. We're again going to simplify here, so both 8 and 1,000 can actually divide by 8. If you didn't recognize that, a couple of steps of dividing by 2. 8 divided by 8, though, is 1, and 1,000 divided by 8 is 125. So 1 over 125 is our fraction. In the case of question G, again, we have a terminating decimal that reaches the thousandths place. And so our fraction starts with 1,000 on the bottom and digits 902 on top. Go ahead and simplify that by dividing by 2. Now, if it was 900 divided by 2, it would be 450. So an extra 2 divided by 2 is 451. And 1,000 divided by 2 is 500. 4 plus 5 plus 1 is 10, which doesn't divide by 3 or 9. 51 does not divide by 4. It doesn't divide by 5 because it doesn't end in a 0 or a 5. It doesn't divide by 6 because it doesn't divide by 2. And 451 doesn't divide by 8 either. 440 would divide by 8, so 451 does not divide by 8. So it doesn't divide by any of our digits here. We're going to say that that is in simplest form. Okay, 0.088 again reaches the thousandths place. And so we'll put 1,000 on the bottom, digits 88 on top. Let's go ahead and divide that. I think 4 is a number that I know both those divide by. So that'll give me 22 over 250. Those will both divide by 2 still. Guess we could have divided by 8 to begin with, which gives us 11 over 125. Last one is another repeating decimal. So since we have 2 digits that repeat, we're going to have 2 9s on the bottom, and then our digits 83 on top. 99 only divides by 9 and 3, and 83 does not divide by either of those. With our next ones, these are all memorized ones, although you could figure them out. 3/4 is 0.75, and that comes from multiplying top and bottom by 25 to get 75 over 100. But that one should be memorized. 1/2 is 0.5. We actually looked at that one up in question C of question 2. For the fifths, we'll multiply by 2 to get tenths, and that'll be 0.2 as a decimal, 2 in the tenths place. With our 1/4, we're going to multiply by 25, and that'll give us 0.25, reaching the hundredths place. Multiply by 2 again, that'll give us 4 in the hundredths place. Multiply by 2 again, that'll give us 8 in the hundredths place. Now the 1/3 is one that we can't make into 10, but we can make into 9, so it'll give us 3 over 9. When we have a 9 on the bottom, that's a repeating decimal, and so this will be 0.3 repeating. And then finishing up, multiply by 2 here gives us 6 tenths, and multiply by 3 here gives us 6 over 9, which is 0.6 repeating. Finishing up with these ones, again, if we have a 10, 100, or 1,000 on the bottom, we have a nice place value decimal. So our 10 on the bottom is in the tenths place, and so this will be 0.9 in the tenths place. Our 100 on the bottom reaches the hundredths place, and our digits 0 as 1, 2 give us 12 hundredths. Our 1,000 on the bottom means we reach the thousandths place. Guess I should fill in this one as hundredths. And digit 706 from right to left. Now, if we have 9s on the bottom, that tells us about a repeating decimal. So 2 9s on the bottom tell us our 2 digits from the top repeat. 3 9s on the bottom tell us that our 3 digits from the top repeat. And 3 9s again. Now we need 3 digits to repeat here, so we'll put our 0 in front of our 28. And we'll say this is 0.028, all repeating. Make sure those repeating bars go over all the digits that repeat. In question G onwards, we need to do something to our fractions to make it either 10, 100, 1,000, or 9s. So I'm going to recognize I can multiply 50 by 2 to make 96 out of 100. Once I have it out of 100, I know I reach the hundredths place, and my digits 6 and 9 filled in from the right. 111 I can't multiply or divide to make 10, 100, or 1,000, but I can multiply it by 9 to make 999 on the bottom. And if I multiply 90 by 9, well, 9 times 9 would be 81, so 81 with an extra 0 on the end. Once I have those 9s on the bottom, I know this is a repeating decimal, so 0.810 all repeating. For my 16 over 36, I'm going to go ahead and simplify that because I don't see an easy way to get 36 into 10 or 9. So let's go ahead and simplify. I'm going to divide both these by 4 because I do know they divide by 4, and that gives me 4 over 9. Oh, look at that. So since I have a 9 on the bottom, I know I have one repeating digit, and that digit is a 4. I have a couple ways of doing question J. I could divide by 2, and I'd choose to divide by 2 because that would give me a 10 on the bottom, so 8/10 is my decimal. I could also take my 16 over 20 and multiply by 5, and I'd choose to do that because it would give me 100 on the bottom. 5 times 10 is 50, 5 times 6 is 30, 50 plus 30 is 80. That gives me 0.80 reaching the hundredths place. Obviously, these two are the same answer. For my 25, I'm going to choose to multiply the bottom by 4 to make 100 on the bottom. And 20 times 4 is 80. 4 times 2 is 8, so 88 on top. Now that I have 88 over 100, I know that's reaching the hundredths place, and my digits are 88. And then I'm going to choose to divide this last one by 2 to make 100 on the bottom. 12 goes into 2 6 times, and 2 goes into 6 3 times. And now that I have my 63 over 100, I'm going to write that as 0.63, reaching the hundredths place. So, those are all our skills for converting between fractions and decimals. I hope that's helped you with this topic.